This is Brandon with Fleet Feet, and I'm really excited about this one, guys. It is one of my favorite categories. It is a performance lineup for HOKA. So we're just gonna be covering the performance line for HOKA, which means it's gonna have those carbon plates, the faster shoes, the race day shoes, all of the premium technology, all of the shoes that HOKA is using right now at their higher innovation. But if you do wanna hear about some of the daily trainers that HOKA has in style and stock right now, then you can go to our other review that actually has all of that. But for now, let's just break down some of these race day and speed options and really just get into it. And one of the funny surprise commonalities with all of these shoes is that it has an X in their name, which means that it actually has a carbon plate in all of these shoes. So that is a similarity to look out for. Please stick around for the end because I do have a special surprise trail shoe to tell you all about. Please make sure to give this video a like or subscribe to our channel so that way we can continue to give you all new videos. So let's get rocking and rolling and start with the HOKA Skyward X. This is one of the big heavy hitters from 2024 and HOKA's first super trainer and one of my favorite shoes of 2024. If you go back to other videos, I actually claim it as one of my favorite shoes there too, and it still is to this day. HOKA had a choice here with their super trainer. They could have gone fast and nimble, or they could have gone with the chonk and the cushioning, and they really could have gone full max stack, and that is exactly what they did here. They stuck to their HOKA roots and went with a max cushion shoe. HOKA decided to opt in with a knit upper, which Heather, one of our reviewers, really liked about this shoe because it really gave her that nice, secure lock-in and fit. Heather has a wider forefoot, and the toe box here and the midfoot is a little bit wider, so she did appreciate that extra space. So for that reason, she had no issues with hot spots or rubbing. And now moving down to the midsole, it is a dual density midsole, and it is made up of supercritical EVA on the bottom and PIBA on the top. But the PIBA is actually on the inside of this shoe. You can't actually see it, but the PIBA is what your foot will be landing on, and then wrapped around it is the EVA, which is going to provide a little bit more stability. This midsole has a meta rocker frame, which is going to just give it that very aggressive rocker feeling, which is going to be great for long run day. And there is a carbon fiber plate in the shoe to add a little bit more springiness and propulsiveness, and it acts similarly to that of the Energy Arc system from New Balance. For a shoe like this, especially from HOKA, it does have a lot of stack like I mentioned. The drop of the shoe comes in at 5 millimeters with 46 in the heel and 41 in the toe for the women's model, and 48 in the heel and 43 in the toe for the men's model. And for the outsole, it has traditional rubber coverage and a little bit of an outsole channel here to see some of the visible technology and for weight saving. And like I mentioned already, this is one of my favorite shoes from 2024. I love a high stack shoe with a lot of cushioning, a lot of support, and this shoe really brings that to the table, and it is very soft and it is very plush, so that's something I really liked about it. For Mandy, every time she tested out this shoe, the same word kept coming back to her, and that was smooth. She just loved how smooth the ride of this shoe was and how she was just able to really fall into a nice cadence. The weight of this shoe comes in a little bit heavier than that of most HOKA shoes at 9.2 ounces or 261 grams for the women's model, or 11.3 ounces or 320 grams for the men's model. Due to the weight, our team did agree that this probably wouldn't be their first choice for speed work. The shoe rounds out at $225. Moving on to the Mach X2, and this is another new shoe from HOKA in 2024. This is going to be your up-tempo daily trainer or speed day shoe, so if you're looking to do any workouts or tempo runs, the Mach X is a great choice. It is going to be the faster and more aggressive version and higher stack than that of the Mach 6. Now, the upper is made up of a very breathable woven mesh upper. The tongue is gusseted and it has a very race-like fit to it. And Kate pretty much loved everything about this shoe except for one thing, and that was the heel collar. For her, she just experienced some friction and rubbing in the heel collar that she didn't really like. And for me, even though I didn't have the same issues as Kate, I definitely found that the heel collar wasn't as secure or as locked in as I would have liked, but I definitely found that the mid midfoot and the toe box fit great. Now the midsole is made up of a dual density midsole with a plate. The top layer is PIBA and the bottom layer is EVA, and it has a Pebax winged plate going through the shoe. And the big story about this shoe is that it actually increases in stack from the previous model by a whole 5 millimeters. So this was definitely an attempt from HOKA to create a very high stack and more protective option. Because of the PIBA that's now in this shoe, it is definitely a softer shoe than that of the Mach 6. Now, speaking of that higher stack, what is it? Well, the drop comes in at 5 millimeters with the women's model at 42 in the heel and 37 in the forefoot, and for the men's model at 44 in the heel and 39 in the forefoot. And one of our reviewers, Trevor, really enjoyed the ground contact in this shoe and how smooth the Meta Rocker was. He found that the shoe wasn't that soft or cushy, but it definitely had a ton of energy return. As for the outsole, it is just made up of standard rubber, and we really had no issues with traction. Caroline, our senior editor, found that this shoe was not only firm, but very peppy. She was doing a workout in the shoe, and once she got into the rhythm of it, she completely forgot that this shoe was on her feet, which is a great compliment to get if you are someone who is a shoe designer or a shoe developer, to know that this shoe just completely falls in line with your stride and with your cadence and helps you move along in the workout is a great benefit. And Caroline had no issues with picking up the pace in this shoe. And not only that, but it is actually slightly lighter than the last model. For the men's model, it comes in at 9.2 ounces or 260 grams, and for the women's model at 8 ounces or 221 grams. This is going to be the most budget-friendly option out of all of the shoes that we talk about, and it comes in at $190. Now we're moving into race day territory, and the first race day shoe that I want to talk to you guys about is the HOKA Rocket X2. And this is a shoe that actually came out last year, but hasn't gotten a new update yet, so I think it's still worth talking about. This is a race day shoe that you can use from the 5K all the way to the marathon. It is a lower stack, more aggressive option. It is very nimble, and it is going to be that faster cadence turnover shoe to that of the Cielo X1, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And this shoe at its time was competing against the very best, against the Vaporflies, against the Adios Pro 3 as that super shoe. And it's actually really HOKA's first real super shoe. I know HOKA had the Rocket X in the past, but the Rocket X2 was really that first super shoe for them. Now the upper is made up of a synthetic mesh upper. It is very breathable, and it has a gusseted tongue. For one of our reviewers, Nate, the first thing that he noticed about putting this shoe on was how paper thin the upper was. And he found that basically the material here is just translucent, and he's right. You can actually put your foot in this shoe and you'll be able to see your socks or your toes in it. What HOKA was really focusing on was weight saving here, and you can tell that with this very thin upper, it is something that's going to make this shoe very light. For the midsole, it is made up all of PIBA with a dual layer system of it. And in the middle here with this line, you can actually see it. It is a bit of a spoon-shaped carbon fiber plate, so it's going to act as a very, very stiff and rigid platform to work off of, but it's gonna add a lot of propulsiveness and pop to it too. The drop of this shoe comes in at 5 millimeters with the women's model at 38 and 33 and the men's model at 40 and 35. The rubber outsole coverage here is pretty traditional, and we had no issues on the roads when picking up the pace in it or cornering. We had no issues with traction, and there is an outsole channel here where you can actually see the carbon fiber plate, and this outsole channel is going to reduce some of the weight. Nate definitely enjoyed the ride of this shoe. He loved how bouncy it made him feel and how aggressive it was, and how it just helped him move a little bit faster through his stride. Talking about the weight earlier, the weight of this shoe is pretty light. For the women's model, it comes in at 6.8 ounces or 193 grams, and for the men's model, 8.2 ounces or 232 grams. With the lightweight option, with the PIBA technology, it being a race day shoe, it falls under a $250 price tag. Now, not only was the Skyward X one of the more popular shoes from HOKA in 2024, but the Cielo X1 really took the cake. This is HOKA's 10K to marathon race day shoe, and man, it is a ton of fun, and there's a lot packed in here. And the reason why it falls into that 10K to marathon distance instead of into the 5K territory is because it is a little bit higher stack off the ground. It's not as nimble as the Rocket X2, and it is just going to be that softer and a little bit bouncier foam than that of the Rocket X2. And this is gonna be a shoe that's gonna hold up a little bit longer over a longer distance and period of time. The upper is made up of a knit upper and the midsole is made up of a dual density PIBA. And inside of that dual density PIBA is a winged carbon plate, 37 in the heel and 30 for the women's model and 39 and 32 for the men's model. And if you can actually see here, there's actually some cutouts to reduce a little bit extra weight. The outsole rubber coverage here is pretty traditional. For one of our reviewers, Kate, she actually put this shoe on and felt like she was running on springs. This shoe is inherently very springy and very bouncy. She also noticed that the rocker shape here was incredibly stiff and that it actually just gave her a really nice rolling sensation. But overall, she really enjoyed how propulsive this shoe was. The weight of this shoe does come in at 7.4 ounces or 210 grams for the women's model, or 9.3 ounces and 264 grams for the men's model. And with all of this technology, with the winged plate, with the PIBA and the knit upper and all of this fancy tech in here, it is going to come up around $275. That's it for the road running side, and I did promise you one last shoe, and that is the trail shoe, a race day shoe that just came out, and that is the Tekon X3. The HOKA Tekon X3 is a new and very special shoe from HOKA on the trail side. We saw the 2.5 featured at Western States. We saw Jim Walmsley win in a new prototype, and Jim Walmsley actually had a lot to say when designing this shoe. For those of you who don't know who Jim Walmsley is, he is a 4-time Western States winner. Now, if you look at this shoe, the first thing you're gonna notice about the upper is this gaiter system. And the gaiter system is one of the areas that I really enjoyed about the shoe. It was the thing that I was the most excited about, but also a little bit worried about too. I was worried about whether I was gonna be able to fit my foot in it, whether it was gonna be accommodating, whether it was gonna give me any friction issues, or it's not gonna fit right. But overall, I actually found that the gaiter system was great. I didn't notice it when I was out on my runs, and it protected me from any rocks or dirt from getting in the shoe. Not only that, but the gaiter made me feel more confident. It allowed me to move a little bit faster without worrying about external elements, and it definitely locked in my ankle really nicely for a little bit of extra ankle support. Now, the midsole of this shoe is made up of a dual layer PIBA and a carbon fiber plate in it, but the carbon fiber plate is actually 2 plates, and they have little winglets for extra stability, which you can see on the sides. The drop of this shoe comes in at 5 millimeters with 40 in the heel and 35 in the toe. And the outsole is made up of Vibram Mega Grip light base, which is going to be with 4 millimeter lugs. With the lower lugs and the light base system with the PIBA, this is definitely a shoe that I would recommend only for buffed out trails. You can take it on some technical terrain, but I really found that this shoe really feels very similarly to that of a super shoe, and the carbon fiber plates act as suspension systems when going through your stride on uneven terrain. So buffed out trails on the West Coast are gonna be your best friend, but you can actually take this out as a road to trail option too. I went on an 11-mile run trail walk through the city, and I was able to test this shoe out on the roads and on the trails, and I absolutely loved it. It really worked well on all conditions. It's very fast. It feels a lot like a super shoe, but it's still very comfortable and soft to take on longer distances. The weight of this shoe comes in at 10 ounces or 283 grams. And for all of this, with the gaiter technology, the PIBA foam, the carbon fiber plate system, it's going to cost $275. Now, that is all of the HOKA performance shoes that we have in store available for you all right now, starting with the HOKA Skyflow, which is HOKA's first super trainer, a max cushion daily trainer. Then you've got the Mach X2, which is a totally revamped version of the Mach. It's gonna be great for those speed days and faster runs. Then you've got the Rocket X2, that very fast and nimble 5K to marathon option. Then you've got that Cielo X1. It is going to be great for the 10K to the marathon distance. It's gonna be very bouncy. It's gonna be very energetic, very high stack, lots of roll. And then of course, the HOKA Tekon X3, the Jim Walmsley inspired shoe from Western States. It's got the gaiter system, it has the new Matrix upper, and it's got PIBA with a carbon fiber plate in it. So a lot of great stuff going on here. And if you want to check out any of these shoes for yourself, you can go online at fleetfeet.com or in store at your local Fleet Feet. And if you want to learn even more about these shoes, you can go check out all of the reviews of them on the blog at fleetfeet.com. And if you haven't already, go check out our daily trainer lineup of all of the HOKA shoes that we tested in 2024.